Welcome to our podcast. My name is Shatoya with the Las Vegas IT Management Podcast. And today I'm super excited to have Stephanie here with us with the Cast Design team. How are you doing today, Stephanie?
I'm good. How are you? I love that intro, the energy.
Yes, I try to start it off with a good process. Stephanie, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Cast Design team and your role as the co-owner?
Yes. So Cast Design Team has now been in business for, I believe it's 8 years. I always get it wrong. It's from 2015. So we're 2015. So we're turning 10 years next year, which is pretty exciting. I started the business with my partner and my wife, Olivia. So we started it, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. And we've actually, I guess we've been in business almost around the same time. Kevin and I took over this business in 2014.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So happy 10 years. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So it's so awesome. And I'm sure you've had a lot of growth since 2015. Did I hear you right?
Yeah. 2015. Yeah. It's a lot. I've been flow, right?
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And so almost 10 years, I guess. Is there anything that you've, learned within those, 10 years of business that you think our audience would like to hear?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that there's a difference between being an employee and being a business owner in your business, right? And I'm still learning that. It takes a lot. So a lot of times businesses, they start because they're really good at something and they do it at their job maybe, or they've trained for it. But then running a business is a completely different thing. You have different hats that you put on. And so learning that is and still learning that, right, is one of the biggest things that I think everyone should hear. Is to be ready to do more roles than what you think it is.
Got it. Yes, that is so true. I feel like, and we've been in business for 10 years, and I still feel like we're learning something every day, which is such an amazing journey. And Stephanie, what inspired you to start Cast Design Team?
Very good question. So I've always worked in corporate when it comes to design, right? So I would work at, for example, like a t-shirt printing company or even the news or production company. And what I saw was that they would always see design as one step of the conveyor belt, whereas I felt I could produce a better job if I would be able to talk to the client and understand what their needs are. Yes, focus on the end product as well, because that's important, right? That's what they're getting, but also focusing more on the design process as an important piece instead of just seeing it as part of a conveyor belt. So I saw kind of that gap with businesses, and I figured, well, if they can actually talk to a designer instead of like a project manager, that would help with the communication. If they could, spend more time with the client and they understood what their needs are and what that final product should do, that would yield a better product at the end. So that's why I started the business, is to give clients a better product at the end by focusing on design.
Got it. No, I totally understand. And you did talk about a little bit about your background, but could you just share a little bit more about what is your background in branding and design?
Yes. So I went to high school, if anybody's from Vegas, to ATech, like a nerd magnet school, right? And I studied graphic design there. That's really when I fell in love with it, with my teachers. And so when I graduated, I figured I'm going to go do 3D and animation, not knowing that it takes forever to render something. And I'm a very impatient person. So I'm like, you know what? Never mind. I'm just going to stick to 2D. So I did that. And then after I graduated, I went and I worked at things like overnightprints.com, which is kind of like, what is that people know, like Vistaprint. So you would upload your files and they would print. So I'd be a designer there. I worked at the news. When you're watching the news, they have a little image on the side of like a picture. So I would create those graphics for the news anchors for them to roll that night. I worked at a very interesting company, which for privacy purposes, I would say. But what they do is they create content courses. And this was like 10 years ago, before all of this happened. We had clients like Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone, and they would take their content and create courses where people could go through online. So I would create graphics for that and kind of outline the course. And then I started my business only offering graphic design. But then eventually over the years, I learned marketing. I learned website design. And so those are all kind of hands-on learning. My background has always been in graphic design.
Awesome. That is so And can you just share some of your key milestones or achievements of Cast Design Team?
Oh, that's an awesome question. In that's a hard one to kind of like go back and look at that, right? I think it was probably 4 years into it that we hit the 100,000 mark. So that was actually pretty cool. And we've been growing thin. And that's kind of like a big deal, right? Like, especially as a service based business, right? I mean, I know trades are different, but service based, we hit that 100K, and that was pretty freaking awesome. That was one. In 2018, 2017, I think it was, I got into the Women's Hall of Fame in Nevada, which is pretty cool. And when else was that? I think around that same time, we won an award for one of our websites to AIGA, which is a design group, so going against designers in like casinos. That was pretty cool. And then with the pandemic and stuff, it's kind of we haven't done a lot more right now. But those are the ones that I can think of. That's a really good question.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Oh, sorry, there's a little background. You did mention the Woman Hall of Fame of Nevada, like what does that consist of?
Yeah, so that's from the Women's Chamber of Commerce. I don't know if you know that, but we have a Women's Chamber here in Nevada, which is pretty cool. So they have a Women's Hall of Fame that they kind of participate every year. They inaugurate, I believe it's 4 to 5 women into that Hall of Fame. And that's voted by, like your achievements and what you've done for the community and those kind of things, which is pretty awesome.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you. And so, what are some of the key elements that make a brand authentic?
Oh, I love this question. So, yes, when you think of authentic, right, the way that I like to define it is one, you say or you do what you're going to say, right? So, if you say, I'm going to send you a quote to a client, you actually do it. The other thing is being authentic to yourself as a business owner, right? And what your values are. So, being able to translate that into your branding is what makes the branding authentic. The other part is not only integrating yourself into it, but personifying your brand as well. Because when you personify a brand, people can actually relate to it instead of like relating to an inanimate object. It's kind of hard to do, right? So when you personify your brand, you're giving it feelings, you're giving it traits, you're giving it a reason for people to be able to connect to it.
Got it. And I honestly just love this topic. And you did mention there was something you mentioned that I was going to ask you, but I totally, yeah, I totally forgot. Uh, and then, yeah, I forgot. And so when it comes to, can you just share some examples of brands that you think are doing an excellent job at being authentic?
Okay. I'm gonna try to not think of like the big ones, right? So like for example, Nike, everyone loves Nike. When I ask people like what's the brand that you admire, they always say Nike. And I love Nike because it is very authentic, and not only that, but it focuses on the feeling versus the actual product. But I'm trying to think of one that is not like that big. Hmm. Like I'm trying to think which one. I think for example, like music artists, right? Like Sabrina Carpenter, for example, or who was I watching this morning? Megan Trainor. Megan Trainor, I was watching her on live, and she's very authentic the way that she talks and the way that she communicates with her fans. I thought that was pretty cool. She's building her personal brand that way too, right? I can't think of an actual thing because there's so many brands. You get bombarded with so many brands every day. So I'm trying to think of which one's really good. What about in like okay, so I think in the makeup industry too, for example, right? There's this brand called I can't think of it. Or like the indie brands, for example, the people that launch their own brands. There's one called Jack, I believe, and he's on TikTok. I love his brand too because of the way that he communicates with them. Authenticity is always about communicating with your audience in ways that people think that you're not going to. Because when you're a big business, how many times do you talk to the owner? How many times do you get a letter from the owner? So having the owner sit there and be the face of it and also talk to the people, I think is a big part of authenticity. That's why I'm going to like these brands that talk to people.
Got it. And I think in 2024, I think that's actually very, very huge right now because with TikTok and YouTube and all these shorts, like there's a lot of the things that, people are currently speaking to their audience, and we have platforms to do so, which is so awesome. And so when it comes to being authentic, How do companies, be authentic branding? How does that translate into sales?
Very good question. When you are authentic, people connect to you. That's one. But people can also align to you. If people see that your values align with their values, they're going to want to work with that company simply because they know they're advancing someone or a company that has the same values as them. Like you said, in today's world, people are, yes, there's people that are always shopping for value, right? But if you give them a reason to shop other than value, other than monetary or money, you're going to align with values. You're going to align with a feeling or an emotion. And that's where people are going to want to gravitate towards you and buy from you. So having an ROI for branding is very hard, but the way that we do it and the way that we look at it is through the website analytics. The more people that browse your website or that actually go through that funnel because you're saying the right thing and you're looking the right way.
Got it. That
Yeah.
is pretty awesome.
It is
And
very hard to monetize branding. I mean, I try.
yeah, no, totally. And a lot of times with people, our companies, everyone's also trying to copy what's already been done. I mean, what is your idea or thoughts on that kind of process of people kind of copying exactly what others are doing? Do you think that's okay, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that is okay in certain things, like SOPs or processes that you're putting into place. Even maybe some marketing ideas. You see that an e-commerce is doing it this way. Well, you can kind of copy that, but look at how you can adapt it to your brand. That's where I think the hard line is when it comes to branding and what you're saying. They shouldn't be the same thing that your competition is saying, because then you're creating confusion in the market, right? The same way that you shouldn't look the same as your competition. I always use the example of coffee shops. Just because you're a coffee shop doesn't mean you need to put a coffee theme on your logo and on everything that you use as your collateral, because then you can easily get confused with another company, right? So there is a hard line as to how far you should copy something when it comes to branding, what you say and how you express yourself. I don't think that you should copy that at all. That should all be original. Anything that has to do with processes or sometimes even marketing. You can definitely take inspiration from other brands and what's working for them.
Got it. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Super, super important. And what strategies do you recommend for businesses to build a brand that not only stands out, but also drives sales?
Good question. So what we did was we actually developed something called branding canvases. I don't know if you know what a business canvas is. Do you know what that is?
I believe I do, but you can just go ahead and share it with us.
So yeah, so it looks like a canvas. It looks like grids. I should have copied it. I have one over there. So it looks like grids, and basically at one side you're looking at like your target market. You're looking at your like where your sales are coming from, like what hardware you're buying, your finances. So it looks like a business holistically. So what we did was we created branding canvases, and those help you to actually identify like your messaging. So one of the things that I strongly believe businesses should do is focus on their messaging and their strategy behind that messaging, right? Who are you at the core? Who are you? What's the purpose of you having your business? What are your values as a company? People talk about mission and vision, which a lot of companies have, but how do you go deeper into that? Where are you positioned in the market? All of that and having that strong foundation is going to help you to stand out and again gravitate the right people to generate the ROI.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Stephanie, can you share a success story with branding where it significantly boosted a client's sales?
Yeah, I do. That's a really good question. Let me think which one I want to share because there's a couple of them. Well, that one has more to do with. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do. I'm thinking of Brain Thriving. So their name is Thriving. They're a staffing agency. We did all of their messaging and all of their strategy, and then we went into their visual identity, did their website. We did the whole package. And the main message there was that they help people look for look for positions that would help them not only grow, but also not only grow in that company, but grow in whatever role it is that they wanted. And they target specifically Latinos in the industry. So what we did with them, and then when we put up their website and we had that messaging throughout, they had an increase of people applying for jobs because they understood why working with that staffing company would ultimately help them in the end. They had values like communication, transparency. What was the other value that they had? Like really, really big values, but they also highlighted on their website. So when you're doing these strategies and messaging, it's not just going to be tucked away. Like your mission statement, for example, a lot of times it's tucked away somewhere in a Google Doc. You don't even know where it's at, right? That should always translate into your messaging, what you're putting on the website. So making sure that you're saying those things is also going to drive the funnel. So when we did it the right way, we were able to kind of create that funnel in the flow. They got an increase in the applicants simply by expressing themselves in that.
Got it. No, that's awesome. And that just also shows you that branding comes in many ways.
Yeah,
Um, that it's not
yeah,
just about sales. It's about, yeah, as you said, getting the right employees.
yes. So I always tell people branding is everything, every interaction that a customer has. So that's the person at the front desk when they come in. That's the person that answers the phone. That's the ad that they see from you, right? All of those touch points eventually become the perception that they create in their head of you, which is equivalent to their brand. So employees, I've had this conversation with Amy, who's big in HR, and it's like employees are huge and they impact their branding, whether you see it or not. Like, let's take the trades, for example. The people that you're sending to your clientele, if they had a bad day and they're, rude to the customer, that affects your brand, right? So there's so many different things that people don't think about that, doctor's offices, for example. I always complain about that because the person at the front desk sucks. But then you go back to the doctor and you love the doctor, right? So you have like a mixed conception there of like, do I like it? Do I not like it? By the end, you like it, but at the beginning, you don't. So that's all part of branding.
Got it. And that just shows you though that the results of the importance of kind of like having like a good end result.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Yes, having the end result. What is it at the end that they're going to get? Whether it's that phone call or that interaction, you need to think about that.
Yeah, because that's where I guess what people remember.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then when it comes to what, like, how does technology play a role in your branding process?
So technology lately with AI has been a big help, definitely. So it can help you with formulating that thought process. If you give AI, for example, just even a snippet of what you're thinking of, it can write it better, it can probably word it better, or come up with a better end product, right? But you still need that foundation with, for example, logos or even Canva and creating graphics and things like that. It definitely helps with all that too, which is pretty awesome. But you always have to have that foundation of what do you want it to do, right? What is the starting point in order to get that end product? So, and then technology in the case of like, for example, what we're doing right now, right? Even with Zoom, you know, your background space. I mean, there's so many ways that technology touches branding, social media, live streaming, all of those things that people need to take into account. Even though now it's day-to-day things, it's still part of technology, still things that you can do.
Got it. And I know you mentioned AI, and I know you mentioned with those tools. I do agree with you. They're very, very helpful. But are there any tools or platforms that you use to assist with branding and generating sales?
So what I would say is the one that we've developed, which is the branding canvas, would probably be the first tool that I always recommend because it is your starting point. And then as far as like technology or software tools, you can always use something like Canva to generate, graphics, or there's even now AI video editors, for example, that you can use and cut up things, and all of that helps. But you have to have the strategy first behind it. I always advocate for that. AI is only as good as what you feed it. And if you feed it trash, it's going to come out trash. But all of those things will definitely help.
Got it. No, and I agree with you. It's very helpful if you know exactly what you want, you'll get what you're looking for. So I think it's very important. And so when it comes to leveraging social media, how do you currently leverage social media and digital marketing in your branding strategies?
So how I currently do it or how I advise clients to do it? So what do
um,
you think of everything?
maybe we could touch on both points. Just
Okay.
share if you want. First, share with us our audience on how they should, focus on brand, and then maybe also share how do you do it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I would tell clients. First off, depending on what business you are, who your target audience is, you don't have to be on every platform, right? So take off that stress because everyone's like, "Oh, I have to be on every platform." No, you don't. Okay. So look for where your ideal client is, and you can go to that platform and only be on that platform. Be very powerful on that platform. Second is, if you want to grow on certain platforms like Instagram or TikTok, you have to do video. Video, video, video. That's how you're going to grow nowadays on any platform. If you don't have a video strategy, then you're not going to grow on a lot of. Also, if you, how can I put it? Also, it also depends on what you're going to say, right? So making sure that you have that strategy again, that you have your content pillars in place, knowing what kind of content you're going to be pushing out there is key. And then also doing 80-20 rule, which is 80% education, information, helping them, and then 20% asking for that sale or driving sale. When they click on your profile, it should go to a link tree and then start the funnel that way, right? And then how I utilize social media is I don't use social media in the sense of my company. I use social media for me because I use Facebook for me and I use Instagram. So when I go to networking events, I always tell people, hey, let's connect. And I give them my personal Instagram. And then also I use, because I am a local business, I use Google My Business for my posting because that way I can feed Google My Business specific keywords and get ranked higher. And then whatever I create for Google My Business, I just kind of slap on Facebook and Instagram. My strategy is not to grow on Facebook and Instagram so much because I know how much work that entails and how much video production and just it's a lot of work to grow in that way. So we try to get our clients mostly from Google My Business, local SEO, and one-on-one networking.
Got it. No, I get it. Especially being in the like we're commercial based, and so a lot of times, it's different than when you're focused on residential or people that are consumers than actual commercials. I mean, would you like to add on that comment that I just
Yes,
made?
that's very true. So if your B2B it's a different strategy than your B2C. B2C is obviously a lot more Facebook, Instagram, all those kind of platforms. B2B, it is more LinkedIn or it's more networking and local SEO. That's how you're going to get found. So what I always say to B2B clients is definitely focus on Google My Business. Google My Business and local SEO like your website are going to be your best friends. Also referral partners. I think B2B people sometimes miss that. There's a lot of opportunity with referral partners. If you were to build a really good referral program or either a referral program or somehow helping each other to pass on those clients.
Got it. Yeah, no, totally, 100%. A lot of our customers actually come from referral partners,
Yeah.
which can be very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And then, so what are some of the common challenges business face when trying to create an authentic brand?
So the there's a couple of things I see. So one is that they only talk about their services. Like I do this, I do that. And so people look at it like, yeah, okay, I don't need that, right? Like an electrician. Sure, you do electrician. I'll call you when I need you, right? People don't focus on the instances, what I like to call. So this is like from a marketing perspective. So if you say instead of, oh, I'm an electrician, you can say, oh, I help you when your light bulb goes off. Or just, something like a story, for example. And people can relate to that more. It's like, oh yeah, I was trying to fix that light bulb. I couldn't reach it. And it was a pain in the ass. And like, so now I know how I can use you. This goes really good with like coaching. So a coach says, oh, I help people grow their business. Okay, cool. Instead of saying I help businesses when they don't know what to do with their cash flow or when they don't know how to do processes, right? So then you tell a little mini story and then your audience can say, oh, I was just trying to do that the other day and maybe I do need you because you can solve my problem. That is the number one thing that I see is that people talk about services. The other thing that I see is that they talk the same as their competition, which is kind of going back to what you were saying earlier. they sound the same as their competition instead of sounding unique and creating those values and creating that message so people can align to that. And
Right.
then the other thing is people when you are not authentic and you are not having a brand, people don't know where to place you in the market. They don't know how to compare you to a competitor. And so people are then choosing based on price. And you're forcing them to choose on price because you're not giving them another reason to choose you instead of your pricing structure.
Got it. And I feel like, especially right now in 2024, you may or may not agree with this, but I feel like with stories and, people want to connect with the people that they're buying from. So that's just my thoughts.
And not
uh,
only the people, but the employees too, right? So especially with this new generation coming up, they want to know what are they doing for the company? Are they just going to be another employee? But if you have a brand, you can tell them this is what we stand for and this is how we're helping people. You are able to like rally them behind you instead of just creating a service and just saying, oh, this is what we do every day. You know, there's more of a messaging behind it.
got it. And then when it comes to those, I guess, how can a company, I feel like we've kind of like, how can a company overcome these challenges that we've, just spoken about?
So it's very hard to create a brand for yourself. Trust me, I know we've done it for ourselves. It's super hard to understand what you're at the core, what you're doing it for, and how to communicate that. So even if you use a tool like the brand canvases that we created and bounce off a colleague or bounce off, your partner, and you need an outside source to help you with that process. Because if not, it's like the same thing happens with design, right? Like you're designing for yourself, you get stuck on it, and you're like, is this good or not? You've been in it for too long. So having a third person or an outside source help you in that process is what's really going to help you and bring out what it is that needs to come out of you. And it doesn't have to be with us. Like I said, it could be with a colleague, it could be with another person in your industry or your referral partner, just to kind of bounce off ideas. But it needs to be an external source.
Got it. No, I agree. And so, what are some of the pitfalls to avoid in the branding process?
So definitely, again, talking about your services, all of those things that I had previously said are going to be a pitfall. Not having someone on the outside, kind of give you feedback is a pitfall. Also, not taking into consideration your audience. If you're an established company and your audience already kind of has a perceived message about you and kind of completely ignoring that and kind of completely rebranding, just know what you're doing before you do that. That can also be a pitfall. And also just getting fresh eyes on everything. Just even your clients can even give you insights as well. Hey, I was thinking of, this design. What do you think? And as long as they're a trusted client, they can definitely give you feedback on
Got it. Yeah, that's true. And then, what are some of the emerging
that.
trends in branding that businesses should be aware of?
So lately, what we've seen is a lot of minimalism, right? As far as like the visual identity goes, is going into logos that are very simple, very easy to read, easy to recreate. We're also seeing the website design stuff like more motion, more interaction coming out of websites, which is pretty awesome to see. Also, as authenticity, which is kind of what we've been talking about, has also been huge lately, and having people see behind the scenes of a company or where the employees work and the culture for bigger companies has been a really big trend as well. For example, I don't know if you know Duolingo on TikTok. They are really big on TikTok, and Duolingo is it's a like a Rosetta Stone, like you can learn another language. So they've actually created their mascot. Duolingo is like a little owl, and he does a bunch of like funny things on TikTok that kind of relate and create a brand, but at the same time make it fun and engaging, which is pretty awesome to do. So seeing that has been a trend of how companies are really doubling down on personifying their company in order to relate. Not only messaging wise, like we see with Nike, but also personifying it and creating someone or a person that people can relate to.
Got it. And there's a question that just came in mind. A lot of our audience may be like maybe trade companies, may not be, but may. So someone who's possibly an electrician, an IT company, or they're more trade kind of based. Is there a way of tips that you would share to be authentic for those services companies?
Yes. So with the trades, I mean, it can be a bit harder. I'm going to be transparent, a bit harder to brand trades, right? Because it's not something that can be too far off, like inspirational or like magical, right? Like you're fixing a light bulb like an electrician, right? Like how sexy can that be? So the way that you differentiate yourself is through customer service, which is a huge one, right? So making sure that the customer has a good experience. Number two is communication. So making sure that when people call you, there's someone there to answer it. You're answering it in a fast way. You're going through client requests and in a very efficient way. That also helps with branding. And then also, believe it or not, the visual aspect of it. So is your website clean? Do you look like a legitimate company, not like Joe Ho off the street, or the also the business cards, your logo? Do you look like a maybe? And I say that sometimes too for trade. You want to look a little bigger than what you are, and you do that through design by having a good visual identity and looking like a bigger company. That's going to create trust, and that's also going to create revenue because people feel like they're taken care of.
Got it. No, and I agree with that 100%. Okay, thank you. And then how do you see the role of technology and branding evolving over the next few years?
I think that AI is going to be a really good help in the coming years. I think that people are starting to realize again that if you don't have a solid idea, you're going to keep getting the same thing. But I also think AI is going to evolve in the way that it might be a little bit easier to do that. And also with like the graphic stuff, I see it even in the tools that I use to build websites. AI is being integrated into that too, which is super interesting, creating original layouts and creating. But I still think that it still has to be the human and the original idea behind it. So even if AI comes with this elaborate website, right? And you're like, wow, this is so cool, this is beautiful. But does it work for your brand? Does it communicate the message that you need? How do you tweak it so that it aligns with your brand and it's original? Because yes, it can create something original, but only to an extent, right? It's still an algorithm. It's still going to have specific outputs that might look identically the same at some point. So yeah, I still think that the human touch is always gonna have to be key to any software and any aid that comes out.
Got it. No, and I agree with you. Just the importance of human touch. Also, what I've personally found of using like ChatGPT or anything like that when it comes to AI, the pictures usually like malfunctioned.
Yeah, and they're not that good,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
So it
which
might,
sucks. But
yeah, it might get better. But for right now, I personally haven't found it to be that, I guess, quality, as you
yeah,
may say, but as things may change. uh, and what is the best piece of advice you to receive that you've received about branding?
ooh, about framing. I think if you there's a quote from a famous designer. He says that if you do not have a brand, you are competing based on price. And that's why I always talk about that. If you do not want to be competing on price, or people ask you, why do you charge so much? You have to think about branding and your messaging. Maybe there's a miscommunication there. And that's really I learned that years ago, and that's really that triggered my thought on as far as branding goes because I come from a graphic design point of view. I was never taught any of like branding and stuff. Somehow I always knew that when you design something there has to be a purpose, there has to be a message behind it. But I was never able to formulate like what does that actually mean until I looked into brand strategy. Because I feel like brand strategy is definitely something that overlooked at, even in business classes. They go straight to marketing, which is needed, but you do need that business strategy or that branding strategy, that brand messaging in order to create a powerful marketing message or Yeah. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I was like, I lost my train of thought. I could have kept going.
No, that was perfect. I think that everything that you shared was absolutely amazing. So thank you all. And what advice would you give to as aspiring entrepreneurs that are looking to build their brand or, possibly just starting out?
So what I would say to them is to first off, just do it, right? Don't be a perfectionist. If you if you need to build a logo on Canva, do it. If you need to build a website on Wix, do it. I mean, you have to start somewhere. I'm going to go back to the branding canvases. Look at the branding canvases. They're on our website. You can go there, download them for free. Start filling it out and start just differentiating yourself in the market. Start looking at competitors and seeing what they're doing. What are they saying? How are they positioning themselves in the market? And start thinking of where you go in the market. Are you going to position yourself based on price, on value, on service? What does that look like? What are you doing different than your competition? Are you using a different product? Is your process? Are you adding a step? Are you doing a process different than what's normally done in the industry? Are you going against your industry, right? Like there's so many ways that you can position yourself in the market. So identifying that is really going to help you to start the business and be able to grow. Because if you just start off based on your services, it's going to be very hard because it's become now it's a place where everything is so saturated, right? There's so many companies and so saturated. You need to be able to know how to stand out and how to communicate that. The one thing is knowing how you stand out, and the other thing is being able to communicate it in a way that's clear. If you get those two right, your visual can, for now, starting off can look whatever. It can be Canva, it can be whatever. Just start. In 3 years, when you've done it and you know who your audience is, you fine tune that messaging, brand yourself, visual identity, strategy, the whole 9 yards, so you can get to the next level.
Got it. No, totally agree. Uh, and then, so, okay, is there any additional information or specific topics you'd like to discuss during this interview?
I think we touched on a lot of different things. I don't have anything else.
Got it. I guess I'm doing my job.
Yeah, no, we got a little bit all over, so that's pretty cool.
Awesome. And then, if listeners would like to connect with you or possibly learn more about Cast Design Team, like how do they do that?
So you can go to our website. It's CASP designteam.com. Like I said, the branding canvases are there. You can download them for free, digital, and print them and work on them for free. We also have a package now for startups specifically. It's catstartup.com. It has your logo, your website, and your Google My Business, everything that you need to start up and kind of done the right way for professionals. You can go there and also check us out. And then on Instagram, Facebook, all of those things, Cast Design Team, we're on there.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. And so thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie. Do you have any final thoughts or messages for our audience?
I want to thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This is really awesome that you do this. And I guess my final message would be that it's hard to be a business owner. I know it's very hard, but if you have a passion for it and you love it, it's going to be, it's eventually going to be easy. And I know that it's going to be hard, but easy at the same time. It's like a love-hate relationship, but you got it. You got
it. And you've got 10 years on, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible to do it. And, you can always be creative as a business owner. So that's the beauty of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephanie.